The Northwest Multiple Listing Service has revised several rules and forms related to selling office commissions. If you are a real estate broker and a member of the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, you'll want to watch this video to find out how these changes affect you. And just a quick reminder, these changes go into effect October 1st, 2019. The first major rule change is the publication of the Selling Office Commission. This allows real estate firms and brokers to publish the Selling Office Commission to the buyer's broker's IDX feed and also their websites. The buyer broker Selling Office Commission will now be readily available to consumers and allow for complete transparency from the beginning of a transaction. Early and better access to all relevant information about a real estate transaction will help consumers make informed decisions about every component of listing, selling, and purchasing real estate. It may also help the Northwest Multiple Listing Service reduce their legal liability pending the outcome of 3 major ongoing class action real estate lawsuits. The second change removes the requirement that a listing contains an offer of compensation to the buyer's broker. So you can now enter 0 as a selling office commission. If a listing does not contain an offer of compensation, the revised rule now allows the buyer and the buyer's broker the opportunity as part of the buyer's offer to negotiate compensation for the buyer's broker. This change allows for greater flexibility for sellers when listing a property, while affording buyers and buyer's brokers a vehicle for negotiating for compensation when making an offer to purchase. So those are the rule changes. What does this actually look like for us as real estate brokers? The first is form changes on the listing agreement. Buyer's brokers are not required to show a property for which there is no written agreement to pay compensation to the buyer's broker. That's really important. Brokers representing buyers will now want to have this upfront conversation with their clients. I am no longer required by law to show you homes not offering selling office compensation. If you do want to see these homes, we'll need to sign a buyer's agreement. Now, getting back to the agreement, the exclusive listing agreements, Forms 1A and Forms 1B, will be revised to alert sellers. It's important that sellers be aware that all relevant information when listing their property for sale, including the impact of not offering compensation to the buyer's broker. The second form change will be the Selling Firm Commission Addendum. That's Form 41C. The Selling Firm Commission will be revised to include 3 options for buyers and buyer's brokers to negotiate for compensation from the seller. The first one, if there is no offer of compensation on the listing, the form will allow the buyer and the buyer's broker the opportunity to negotiate for compensation for the buyer's broker to be paid by the seller. The second one is consistent with Rule 104D. The form will allow the buyer and the buyer's broker the opportunity to negotiate for additional compensation from the seller where the selling office commission is less than the buyer's obligation to the buyer's broker in a buyer representation agreement. Third, if the property is not listed for sale by owner, the form will allow the buyer and the buyer's broker the opportunity to negotiate for compensation for the buyer's broker to be paid by the seller. So what's going to happen when all this goes into place after October 1st? These rule revisions may increase the use of the buyer representation agreements. While not required under Washington law like an agency agreement with the seller, buyer representation agreements contain many important provisions. First and foremost, the agreement establishes a formal contractual relationship with the buyer. Second, the agreement provides for compensation for the buyer's broker services in the event that the seller does not offer sufficient compensation to the buyer's broker. Third, the agreement provides that the buyer is responsible for inspecting the property to ensure that the property is suitable for the buyer's needs. Finally, the agreement contains an attorney's fees provision, which entitles the prevailing party in any dispute to recover its reasonable attorney's fees and costs. Buyers should review Northwest Multiple Listing Service buyer representation agreements, Forms 41A and 41B, and consider the use of these forms when working with buyers. I've read through all the Northwest Multiple Listing Service frequently asked questions regarding these changes, and there's one question that the Northwest Multiple Listing Service covered that I found interesting. Were there any outside factors that the Northwest Multiple Listing Service considered when making these changes? The Northwest Multiple Listing Service has been discussing changing its rules to allow its members to publish the Selling Office Commission on the IDX websites ever since the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission workshop on real estate competition was held in June 2018. The Selling Office Commission was the only non-confidential data field that the Northwest Multiple Listing Service did not provide to members for public display. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service member brokers concluded that the buying public should have ready access to commission information in addition to the property information. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service considered many factors when deciding to eliminate the requirement that a seller offers compensation to the buyer's broker. Giving sellers more flexibility and options when listing their property for sale was the primary consideration. The recent class action lawsuits certainly called attention to this issue and afforded the Northwest Multiple Listing Service member brokers the opportunity to review MLS rules and approve them to allow brokers to continue to innovate and provide better service to buyers and sellers alike. That's the official Northwest Multiple Listing Service stance. What I think will be the byproduct of these changes is greater use of the buyer's agreement and the inevitable downward pressure on real estate commissions. Real estate has been one of the slowest industries to respond to technological changes. I think it will take us a little bit to figure out how these changes will actually impact us as real estate brokers. It always does. Let me know how you feel about these changes in the comments below. So hang in there for now, and as we have more to report, I'll keep you updated. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Again, I'm Sean Reynolds, the owner of Summit Properties Northwest and Reynolds & Klein Appraisal. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.